As you know, Harley Davidson just had their 2022 premier launch event, and I'm going to tell you why I think this puts Harley back at the top as a premier motorcycle brand. All right, everybody, what is going on? It's Eric here at the Moto Jawn. Thanks for stopping by to another video today. And of course, as you all know, as you recently probably saw, Harley Davidson just had their 22 model year release and premiere event streaming all over the internet. I'm sure everybody was checking in and tuning into that. Just like they did last year, they kind of went through that process where they went through some of the bikes, told some stories, showed some of the new models that were coming out, some of the different changes, talked to some of the designers, all that good stuff. And very similar to last year, they released some of the bikes early. We already knew a lot of what was coming up for 22, just like we did in 21. And then we also had a ton of leaked images, pictures, rumors, videos, details, all that stuff coming out leading up to this event. So we kind of already knew what to expect when this event was coming out. But of course, you know, I had to tune in and check out and see what they had going on anyways, kind of see what they had going on, formulate some of my own opinions on that and what I thought of it. And I'm going to talk through a little bit of those here today. And I'm also going to talk about why I think Harley is on their way back to the top as a premier motorcycle brand. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. So of course, to start the premiere, they kicked it off with a little bit of history, some backstories, some intros, some things like that, intros from the CEO, things about the past, present, future, things where they're going, and then they got into describing the bikes a little bit. You know, obviously they talked a little bit about the King of Baggers that was in there, some other little stories. Now, I was actually pretty surprised. I don't think we had a cameo from my boy Jason Momoa. Did we? I don't know. I didn't see him in there. I'm pretty surprised by that. But anyways, they went through, told some of those stories, and finally they got into some of those details of the bikes. And of course, like I mentioned at the beginning, we already had a ton of leaks and pictures and rumors and things leading up to this event in the past week or so. I think a lot of us really had a good idea of what was actually coming at this event. So a lot of this I don't think was actually any surprise to us. And being that there was not really any real surprises in this, I think there was probably a little bit of a disappointment factor. I've already started to see on some of the threads, some of the online forums and stuff, you know, it's kind of the same old thing from Harley. They're putting out different models, different bikes, really just with, you know, a little bit bigger engine, a little new paint job and things like that, which has kind of always historically been the story with Harley. You know, they just slap a new paint job on it, you know, throw a different motor in it, throw one little different piece in there and call it a totally new model. And I agree, there is some of that going on this year. So as I'm watching through this, I do think that there are some things that Harley does get right here and some things that are going to set them up for future success on down the road. Not specifically things that are going to make a huge impact right now, but some things that they're doing that I really think are going to set them up for some future successes on down the road. And one of those things that I got to give them credit for is I really think that they're sticking to this plan that the CEO, Johan has set forth a few years ago when he took over. They really talked about how they were going to try to become the most desirable brand, the most premium luxury motorcycle out there. And they made no bones about it, no lies about it here. They talked about how prices were going to go up and kind of create that exclusivity factor to make the motorcycles more desirable. So one thing that I think that the reason that they're on the way back up is because they are actually following through with this plan. They're trying to become the premium luxury motorcycle out there that is desirable. It's going to be expensive. Like I said, they've made no mistake about it. They clearly stated that. They let the customers know. I think they've let everyone know at this point that the prices are going to be going up. And that's what's going to kind of quantify as these luxury premium style bikes. Some of them that we got to see during this release and this premiere event. But then as I backtrack here, that also is kind of frustrating as well, because one of the big factors and one of the things that Harley always gets knocked on is, you know, they're just kind of taking the same bike, the same frame, same engine, throwing a little bit of different parts, a little bit of different pieces, a new paint job, and trying to pass it off as a whole new model. And so I'm going to get into that a little bit here about some of the frustrating parts of that, but I think it is one of those factors that is going to help them along the way. And one of those factors that I'm talking about is when they talk about being, you know, a premium motorcycle brand, desirable type of brand, what they've done, and like I said, they've been totally open and honest about this, is the prices are going up. Okay, so whether it's MSRP or different fees, dealership fees, all this different stuff, prices are going up. There's no mistake about it, and there's not much we can really do to avoid that. But where they have had success in doing this within the past year or so, or even in the past couple months, if you check the earnings reports, they've been selling less units and becoming more profitable. So they're selling less and making more money. And that's one thing that I got to give them credit on, even though us as the consumer, we may not be happy or satisfied about that. Things are more expensive, parts are more expensive. They're being able to execute in making more money. And at the end of the day, that's the goal. Whether they're selling less units because of supply and demand or exclusivity or trying to create that premium type option, even though they're selling less units, they're making more money. And like I said, at the end of the day, that's what you're running the business for. You got to make money, and you're making more profit selling less units. So obviously they're doing something right. And so how are they accomplishing that? And what did we see during that event that they just released? Well, they started off with the Road Glide and Street Glide ST. So what they're kind of pitching this as is like the sport touring option. And again, it comes back to that factor of, is it really that much different than some of the other bikes out there? Not really. I mean, at this point now, we've got those options in the standard Street Glide, Road Glide standard. You got the 107 in it. You've got the Street Glide, Road Glide special. You got the 114 in it. And now you've got the Sport Touring ST options that have the 117 in it. So when we take a look at these bikes specifically, like I mentioned, there's not a whole lot of change. Even though they're marketing it different and giving it a different model and name, in my opinion, it's essentially still the same bike. I mean, take a look at these things. So you've got some different styling. You know, you bump up the motor by 3 cubic inches. It's going to be a little bit more powerful. I was expecting, if we're calling this a sport touring option, I would have been expecting some upgraded suspension, upgraded lean angles. I took a look through the website and compared some of those. All of those specs are exactly the same. So the only real difference there is you're getting that different styling, some bronze accents here and there, and of course the bigger engine with the 117. And I mean, honestly, the 117 really, I mean, we're not looking at that much more power over the 114. So with these sport touring models, obviously, we're going to get that price increase there. So that's one of the things that Harley is doing. They're making these bikes a little different, trying to pitch them as exclusive, a little bit more desirable, crank the price up a little bit. And then that's where we get those profit margins. Like I said, they have made no secrets about this. They're going to focus on their most profitable bikes, which are the big, huge baggers. I mean, that's where the margins are, and people are buying them as well, like I mentioned. So when we look at the Street Glide and Road Glide specials, those are coming in at about $27,500 on the price tag, and now the sport touring options are coming in at about $30K on the price tag. So a little bit of different styling, a little bit of bigger engine, $2,500 more. So I don't know. I mean, y'all be the judge out there. Let me know what you guys think about these options. Are they really that much different? Are they really differentiating themselves enough? But I think Harley is doing the right thing here. All they have to do is mix up the branding of these, create some different models, increase the price a little bit, and then from there you're increasing your margins on basically the same bike that you had before. So like I said, no secret there. That's kind of the model that they're going with. And even though I don't like it from a cost perspective as a consumer, I like it from the company perspective because, hey, that's business. That's business. That's what we're talking about here. At the end of the day, you got to make money, and that's what they're doing right here with this launch event today. And some of these models that they released is they're looking at increasing that exclusivity, raising the price, increasing profit margins, maybe even selling less units, but making more money. So then obviously the next part, they went through the CVO models, again, looking at increasing that kind of premium luxury factor. I was surprised actually that they kept the 117 in those models. I thought to kind of separate a little bit. I thought maybe they would have a bigger engine there. Basically, from what we've seen, I mean, you've got the different colors. Harley's always going to have the best colors, in my opinion. They're always going to have that deep, rich look to their colors. I think the colors are amazing, but at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot of changes to the CVOs, some new color options and stuff there. Not particularly something I would ever buy or purchase or have the income to even purchase, but there is the market for those out there. And again, that's the thing that Harley said they're going to focus on is their most desirable bikes, their biggest profit margins. And again, that's going to come by way of these CVOs, man. I think these things are here to stay. The baggers, the changes to the baggers, this is all here to stay because this is the direction that's Harley's headed, and I think that's going to keep them on an upward trend. So next they rounded it out and finished it up with the Lowrider S. Of course, we had images and rumors and pictures flying around for months ahead of time that it was going to get this fairing and bags. And again, we finally do get the confirmation that it comes out. Even in the past couple of weeks, we had pictures leaking where, I mean, we were like 100% positive that this thing was coming out. And honestly, now that I see it, I got to be honest, man, this thing is Beautiful. I'm in love with this thing, and I think Harley knocked it out of the park with the price point. The bike is coming in at an MSRP of $21,749, and honestly, I thought this thing was going to be somewhere close to like 25, 26, something like that. I was like, they're going to throw some bags on it, a fairing, increase the engine size, and this thing is going to be about $26,000. But coming in at 21.7, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think they knocked it out of the park with that price point. Definitely knocked it out of the park with the bike. The thing, I just love it. I love it better than some of the pictures that were leaked that we saw for weeks and weeks. I'm a huge fan of this with the hard case bags, the fairing on there. This thing, I think they really nailed it on there. I know a lot of people are saying maybe the gauge, the Speedo should have been different. I actually like the Speedo as well. I'm a huge fan of that Street Bob Speedo on there. I love that gauge. I don't really need all that technology. Some people are saying put the Sportster S gauge in there. I could do without that, to be honest with you. I like what they did with this bike all around. As I'm looking to potentially upgrade this year, this is something that I am definitely going to have to consider or take into consideration. Now, I do know, I mean, once we put in the tax and title and dock fees, dealer fees, this thing could probably get up around maybe $26,000 with inflation. Who knows, but that option might be on the table for me if I come across one. So then, of course, we took a look at just the regular Lowrider S here. We've got the new gauge up there. I do like how they relocated it up onto the bars. And that was one of the things that Harley really talked about in this event. You know, they were really listening to the customer now. You know, they saw the trends. You see that coming through in the touring option for the Lowrider S. You know, they heard that people wanted the gauge moved up off of the tank for the Lowrider S, so they went ahead and did that. Very smart move on their part. I think the more they can listen to the feedback of customers and make some of those changes, it's going to do nothing but help them in the long run. Some more exciting stuff if you watched until the very end of that. Of course, they talked a little bit about the future. Of course, you know, they're going to give their little pitch about this is just the beginning of 2022, blah, 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 yada, yada. I know people were probably expecting some other bikes to be shown out during this event, but honestly, I wasn't. I really expected exactly what we got. People were expecting maybe a surprise of the Bronx or maybe a 975 Sportster, but at the end of the event, they did kind of give a little segue to that. We can almost guarantee it looks like we're possibly going to get a 975 liquid-cooled Rev Max Sportster coming up sometime this year. I'm assuming spring or summer from everything they said. It sounds like that's going to possibly get released at that point in time. So yeah, let me know what everybody thinks about the premiere event. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you think's coming up for the future? Really, like I said, in my opinion, I think this is the beginning of Harley coming back to the top as a premier motorcycle brand, because even though we're a little disappointed, I would say, with what they put out during this event, you know, they just changed a few things around, some bigger motors, some different paint jobs, some stuff we're all used to. But they're listening to the customers now, and they're really executing and following through on the plan that they discussed. And when you have a plan and you stick to it like that, I think they're on the right path. I think Johan Zeitz is onto something here. This plan seems to be working. Like I said, they're headed back towards that premium motorcycle brand. If you think about them selling less units and making more money, I mean, that's the plan and execution right there. They're going to keep focusing on these big bikes, keep focusing on the baggers, because that's what makes them money. But I do think we are still going to see some new models coming up this year, Revolution Max models that are going to get their own hype, their own premiere events, so that the focus can really be on those as well. So those are some of my initial thoughts and comments about the event that we just saw recently with Harley. So of course, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, what you like, what you don't like, what you thought of the event, what you think's coming in the future. Are you interested in any of these bikes? Not. Are you thinking I'm crazy for saying they're back? Listen, I don't think they're back now, like I said, but I think they're on the right track. And I think this event is the start of that. Even though we might have been a little disappointed, they're on the start back, I can tell. So that is going to wrap up this one for now. As always, make sure you ride safe out there, guys. Make it a good one. It's the Moto John. We'll see y'all down the road. Peace.